I'm going to get started with the news of Geoff Hinton leaving Google. So, if you joined us for episode 45, we did touch on this as a rapid fire item because it had just happened last Monday morning. But as the week went on and I saw Geoff Hinton on a number of news shows and read a bunch of articles about it, it was just kind of becoming a bigger and bigger story. So let's kind of recap what happened here. So Geoff Hinton, who's a pioneer in deep learning and formerly the VP and engineering fellow at Google, left the company after 10 years, as he said, due to fears he has about the technology he helped develop. So he wants to speak more openly about his concerns. And part of it is that he is now regretting, in some ways, his life's work. So he did an interview with MIT Technology Review where he said, I have suddenly switched my views on whether these things are going to be more intelligent than us. I think they're very close to it now, and they will be much more intelligent than us in the future. How do we survive that? He questions. So he's worried that extremely powerful AI can be misused by bad actors, especially in elections and war scenarios, to cause harm to humans. Certainly, I would not debate that. We've talked about that concept, especially with the elections, on this show a number of times before. He's also concerned that once AI is able to string together different tasks and actions, like we're starting to see with the idea behind AutoGPTs and this concept of AI agents being able to take actions on our behalf, that these intelligent machines could take harmful actions on their own. He was very clear in different interviews to say it was not an attack on Google at all. He actually still thinks very highly of Google, has lots of good things to say, but he wants to talk, quote, to talk about AI safety issues without having to worry about how it interacts with Google's business. So, like I said, as the week went on, this one kind of kept building steam. I got a text about it from my dad asking about it. I was at 3 different conferences last week, and I was asked at least a dozen times my thoughts on this topic. And then the one where I knew we'd sort of like really hit the mainstream was I saw a tweet where Snoop Dogg was commenting on this at he was appearing at the Milken Institute Global Conference, and I will not quote Snoop Dogg exactly. You can go listen to the video yourself and hear the more colorful language that Snoop Dogg used. But to summarize, he said, I heard the old dude that created AI saying this is not safe because the AI has got their own minds and these people are going to start doing their own stuff. So again, if you haven't heard it, you can kind of mix in your own Snoop Dogg language into what he actually said there. Um, but it was funny because it's like a 37-second clip, and I feel like Snoop Dogg actually very accurately captured the moment we find ourselves in, where no one knows what in the world to believe, and we're hearing these crazy headlines, and so it was good for a laugh. I've watched it like 10 times, so we'll link to that tweet in the show notes, and you can hear it for yourself. So now to kind of unpack this. Snoop Dogg is not correct in that Hinton created AI, but he certainly has played a major role in setting the stage for the advancements we're seeing today in deep learning, and in fact, coined the term deep learning to kind of rebrand neural nets, which neural nets have been around for decades and had a very kind of technical perception about them. So he coined deep learning. I think it was around like 2008 or 2009. But in the MIT article, it explains a little bit better what Hinton is known for. So it says he's best known for an algorithm called backpropagation, which he first proposed with 2 colleagues in the 1980s. The technique, which allows artificial neural networks to learn, today underpins nearly all machine learning models. In a nutshell, backpropagation is a way to adjust the connections between artificial neurons over and over until a neural network produces the desired output. Hinton believed that backpropagation mimicked how biological brains learn, and he has been looking for even better approximations since, but he has never improved on it, according to MIT. And so now he's worried that this early work and the advancements that have made sense are accelerating way faster than he expected. Things he thought were going to be decades away appear to be at our doorstep. So in an MSNBC interview, he said, Quote, I was working on making computer models that got more and more intelligent in an attempt to understand what went on in the brain. And very recently, I realized that the computer models we're now making may actually be a better form of intelligence than what's going on biologically. Now, I've followed Hinton's work for well over a decade. I went back and listened to that excerpt like 5 times. That's a really hard thing to process. This idea that it's possible that these synthetic versions of intelligence we're building are actually better forms of intelligence. It's a really weird thing to think about. But his fear is that as they get smarter than us, it could lead to the downfall of humanity. So this is certainly taking an extreme position on the negative impacts here. But I think the main thing I've taken away from it is the key talking point he seems to use is that he wants an equal amount of resources dedicated to trying to ensure that this is done safely. It is kind of the main premise. And it seems to be the basis for him leaving Google and hitting the news circuit is he wants just more resources and brain power and maybe AI power dedicated to building safe AI. Now, I think it is important to add a little context here that this is not, Geoff Hinton is not the first person to call attention to these dangers. There are two women in particular, Dr. Timothy Gabru and Dr. Margaret Mitchell, who led the ethical AI team at Google and were relieved of their duties rather unceremoniously in late 2001 and early 2022. And they've been highlighting these dangers for years, along with many other ethicists and people in the industry. So again, I think it's important just to recognize their work and their early efforts in this area and make sure that those efforts aren't forgotten. Um, and as we look forward, I think despite these headlines and fears, I think it's good that people are paying more attention to the risks. Now, I do feel like what Hinton is talking about is probably extreme for most people and not the thing that you probably need to be worrying about. The downfall of humanity is a kind of an abstract thing, and there's no real clear explanation of how exactly they think that's going to occur, other than, well, if they're smarter than us, then obviously they don't need us, and it would lead to the downfall of humanity. But there is no logical, actual step path to get there. But I do think that a greater need, greater focus on ethics and safety is critical. So just to kind of wrap this section up, Hinton himself did tweet because he was kind of getting called out by people like Jan LeCun and some others in the AI research space who don't agree with him and don't share these dramatic concerns. And so he did say there is so much potential benefit that I think we should continue to develop it, but also put comparable resource into making sure it's safe. So he has said on multiple occasions and in this tweet, he's not calling for a stop. He did not sign the Future of Life Institute letter that we've talked about previously on the podcast. He just wants to put more time and energy into ensuring safety. And so if that's what he spends the latter part of his career doing, talking about these issues and hopefully working on these issues, then, hopefully it's a win for the research community and for humanity.